Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GST Get Shit Done Venture Studios. We're a premier AI, generative AI, and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur. We're 17 unicorns, companies under the belt, and 2 unicorns. Oh, I almost went to 17. I'm thinking about the future. Today, we have 142 companies inside of GST, which is Get Shit Done Venture Studios, from 57 countries around the world. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. So, with that, I'd like to introduce my incredible guest, Francesca Tabor. She's a speaker, she is a consultant. She's done the Generative AI conference in London. She's been involved in companies all the way from the technical part to marketing. So, with that, I'd like to bring Francesca on board.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, everyone.
Francesca. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, super. So tell me a little bit about your journey. So how did you get started? I know you were at Hello Fresh and you were at the Chartered Management Institute, but how did you get started in AI?
Sure. So right now, I started my AI journey fairly recently. So since February this year, I have Gen AI Con, which is a conference company. So we did our first conference in June with 200 people. Now we're looking at doing conferences next year in Saudi and different locations across the world, which is really exciting. And then I also have Fashion AI, which is a community of independent fashion designers that use AI for designing. But now I'm consulting more broadly the fashion industry and looking at how AI can help with manufacturing, with demand forecasting, with different elements of running of the fashion industry at large.
Well, the interesting thing in Francesca is that there's a new model in place. You might want to think about this. These large LLMs that are multimodal. By that, I mean, it allows you to be able to use the strength of each one of the generative AI tools to be able to solve extremely complex problems. So, for instance, we recently took one of those and we put it on the global warming problem. And ChatGPT became the manager, the director, and it assigned roles to each of the other AIs based on what kind of skill sets he had. For instance, Salama is really good at math. And so not only can you reduce the cost, but you can dramatically increase the efficiencies of the model and reduce things like bias. So these kind of new models are coming out, and you can imagine in the fashion industry or any industry applying those models. It gives you an expert opinion in a 360-degree view.
Absolutely. And fashion's really interesting because you've got the digital side, which is digital fashion in games and in the metaverse. And then you've got the physical side and all of the supply chain and all of the sustainable issues around that. The amount of cotton that's produced that uses a lot of water. You've got, I wouldn't say slavery, but you've got, some bad business practices across the industry. So a lot of issues that can and should be tackled. Plus, it's one of the most exclusive industries. It's really hard to get into. Lots of people want to work in the fashion industry, and then they enter into it, and they're not being paid that much, or designers get their IP sort of stolen by bigger brands. So many issues that can be tackled, and I'm a big one for ethics in general. So trying to look at solutions using technology that will help make the fashion industry more sustainable, but also support, creatives all around the world. So you can get designers popping up in Latin America or in India, and we can see the next Coco Chanel coming from those those countries, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you use some of these tools, uh, like generative AI and steroids, but you could go out and it could actually forecast what kind of designs and actually create the designs, right, for that particular region. Actually, could do it hypersensitively or hyper personally and go down and do it for that particular person. And so, if you look at the evolution, kind of like your grandmother, that knows what you want before you want it and cares about you loving and compassionately, cares about who you are and what you do. But these models are fascinating. So you've been involved in this from what, 2011, if I recall, right? You got started.
So ever since COVID-19, I've been involved in more so on the kind of community building, partnership, event side of things, but at the forefront of these new technologies. So looking at games, NFTs, the metaverse. But in my early 20s, I started out as a product manager building a social network. So our team was in India. So early on in my career, it was all about learning how to build technology, how to manage teams. Then working at bigger companies like HelloFresh and Badoo, where it was all about optimization with data. And then, yes, I suppose COVID-19 was the sort of turning point where I started to build my network and meet people across different industries and disciplines and start to make those connections. And that's where I became more kind of creative. I could see how fashion could learn from sports or from the food industry or vice versa. And I'm having a lot of fun in this kind of creative space.
So, but you got started. You were at Foot when you got started, right? FCB Global, and so you were doing a key account management. And how do you go from key account management to become a technical product manager?
So ever since boarding school, I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I went to the same boarding school as Richard Branson. I had dyslexia. I was terrible at school, terrible at uni, didn't like any of the subjects. I found school really boring. But then I read his book and we had a very similar personality trait. So I followed in his footsteps and I joined the Journalism Society and started that, and then the Debating Society. And one of his key mantras was to always push yourself outside of your comfort zone and comfort circle. And as a very shy and introverted young woman who is creative and sensitive and all of these things, that then helped me to, incrementally always look for challenges. And in my early 20s, it was all about social media. So I'd go to all of these tech events, meet entrepreneurs and investors, and it was just this amazing time of optimism. So we thought that social networks were going to connect the world and make the world a better place. And it was a lot of fun building this Facebook style application. It was almost a ripoff, but with a lot of extra functionality. And we went to all of the universities and got the universities to compete to get people on the platform. The BBC wanted to do a documentary on us. Luckily, we didn't, because we were all very young and we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. And then mobile came along and we had to strip away this big, complex social network and then just focus on messaging. And at that time, it actually took off when we went from, 15 different features to just one that we did really well. But then the issue was moderation of people sending inappropriate messages on the platform.
How did you moderate it?
Well, obviously, I'm a woman in the in the industry, so I was always flagging. We have to moderate the content. We have to take this down. But unfortunately, there was another side of the business, which is all about performance and showcasing to investors that we've got, loads of messages are being sent on the platform. So there was an element of short-term thinking, which actually eventually caused a lot of the women to sort of drop off the app, which was exactly the issue that Bumble was facing, has tackled with women approaching men first, because otherwise in the dating context, men can feel rejected and then they become hostile. So that was the solution that she came up with.
So women, wait a minute. So the short term you said, and women approaching men. So it's better for women to approach men or men to approach women?
So a lot of these social networks, some of them survived and many of them turned into dating apps. So I joined Badoo, that has Bumble and a plethora of different dating apps under its umbrella. And what Bumble did, so I didn't work for Bumble, but I worked for Badoo on the payment side. What Bumble did is they allowed women to approach men first. And the benefit of that was women tend to be more selective when it comes to dating. So when they're connecting with someone, they're going to follow through. Whereas men on Tinder, let's say, they will it's a numbers game. And they'll bombard women with messages. They won't get a reply. Then they'll get hostile. And so you go from a warm, friendly conversation to something which then becomes a bit more, not conducive to actually people dating and meeting and going off and forming a relationship.
Huh, that's interesting. So, so the women follow through, the men don't follow through. And what are the women looking for?
On a dating app?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I haven't been on a dating app for a while, but what I work for, what I did within Badoo is I was on the payments team, and we were localizing pricing and having, implementing different payments, whether it was mobile payments and things like that. So I was fascinated to see that actually we had such a really large demographic of users in the Philippines, but their behavior is completely different in different countries. So I became really fascinated in localization, which is actually quite important.
I was trying to figure out what each one of the countries would want, so the women are going out there and the guys are just doing mass on it. It's interesting, actually. What's driving them and what's gonna, is it a relationship kind of thing, or is it like, dating to just see who's out there that could be interesting? It's fascinating.
It's exactly the same thing as what I was saying before with the mobile app and the vanity metrics. What is the incentive of the dating app? Is it to actually form, functioning relationships, or is it to, entertain you for a while and just keep you engaged on the platform?
Yeah, that's interesting. So what is it though? That's the point, right? Is it sometimes it's to entertain you for a while because you want to go out to go to the movies or go to dinner or take a walk on the beach. It's just fascinating, actually. And then is it really for the end goal or not?
I mean, I think the dating market, they have a lot of room to still evolve and look at, okay, can we merge dating with hospitality and travel? Do people actually want to do things together? So are we going to then encourage people to move from just talking to then sharing their calendar and seeing people's availability to then actually doing something? And then you can get those businesses to provide a discount for couples. And that would be quite
groups. Maybe it'd be easier with groups, right?
Or groups. I mean, that's how we used to date. We would go to church or we would meet for our friends. And I think maybe we're going to go full circle and realize that, too much choice isn't a good thing. And we want to go back to more sort of selective, which actually ties in really nicely with generative AI right now. Just like on the date, Tinder and all of these dating apps opened up the world to us, to so many choices, but actually had the inverse effect. Lots of people complain about dating apps. I think the same will be true with generative AI. We can create so much content but it's valueless. And the more content we put into the model, the dumber it gets. So, it's almost a losing battle.
Well, that's so a couple of things. One is that's the problem of infobesity, right? We're overloaded. I mean, think about it. You're a smart lady, but how many times in the last 2 weeks has somebody said, Francesca, I sent you a message. Did you get it? Where did you send it? I sent it to your email. Which one? One of 7. When did you send it? I sent it 3 days ago. Let me check. I can't find it. Will you send it again? And I mean, a lot of people are using things like WhatsApp in lieu of email because they can't find the email anymore.
Yeah.
They're trying to find something to filter. It's crazy. It's like, and then there'll be WhatsApp. It'll go to Telegram or Signal. It'll just keep moving around. And the problem is still the root problem is infobesity. And I think, what you're saying is on the dating side, you're right. It's, there's a lot of choices out there. And so you've got all these choices that we never had before. How do you find the best person for you, right? In a hyper personalized way. And the other thing is, is it a continuum that keeps changing all the time because we change, right? Is it different today than it was 2 weeks ago or a month ago?
Yeah, no, I had this really interesting story about how AI and dating would work together. So imagine you've got this middle-aged lady who finds a chatbot and it's a dating coach. And the chatbot asks lots of questions about her and says, okay, I've got the perfect man for you, and I'm going to set up this date for you. You don't even have to talk to them. And she's like, perfect, I'll just turn up at this date. And she has a terrible date. You know, it's a man and he's talking about his ex-wife. He's divorced and he's just drinking a lot and things. So she then goes back to the chatbot and says, oh, that was terrible. And he said, okay, well, you know, don't worry, I'll find you someone else. And the end result of that is that she actually falls in love with a chatbot and doesn't want to meet a man, because the chatbot is actually answering her and listening to her, understanding her, and is there at any moment of the day and is empathetic. So that's a bit of a concern when we suddenly have.
Well, you know that, but the part of it, there's a company called Replica that actually I remember talking to Jenya Kuda many years ago, and she developed this is many years ago, but she developed this incredible chatbot. And you're right about it. I mean, the one thing is, it's about empathetic listening, compassion. Who can really fill those needs? And sometimes it's just loneliness. I mean, we use our mobile phones, and sometimes it's really a barrier to people. It's not like a gateway into their soul. It's really a barrier, and it's not the kind of things. You're right. We walk to church holding hands. You come out of church holding hands. You go to your Saturday night in the city, if you're in a town outside of London, and go in and have a little community town thing. It's just those times have changed, and again, it goes back to infobesity. We have so much data in front of us. It's really hard to make sense of it. It's
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
hard.
And I think as all people, we have our sort of public persona. So what you have on, say, LinkedIn, your own personal website, your personal branding, and then you've got your private persona, which will be everything that you actually consume, maybe on YouTube. And you might not want people to see what channels you're subscribing to, or the music you're listening to, or the Netflix movies you're watching. But that's actually the real person. So when you get into that sort of data, that's where you can probably match people up. And having worked in a social network,
But the problem is, nobody wants people to go into that data. And
no, it's very invasive. You want to just, slowly but surely reveal who you really are, I suppose.
yeah, so you go down through, and I know when we formed Findo, which is one of my first generative AI companies, people, they wanted to find the information, but they would have like thousands. I mean, I have 8,000 pictures now, inside of my own private cloud. And, the situation, I don't even remember what I have in there anymore. It's been a long time. And so I have no idea. I know there's some, old girlfriends that are in there. I'm sure I have no idea where they are. But now with these tools, the thing is, we can uncover those digital treasures, or we
Mm-hmm.
can find things that we've never had. The other thing is, it surely does make our life a lot better if you know who you are. And if we did an analysis based on all that information, your Netflix, your Prime, who you really are, it would definitely make a better match if the person's willing to be open about who they are.
Absolutely. And lots of people fake who they are in dating, and that's where they get it wrong. It's better to be authentic and for people to reject you and then to find the right person. But yes, when I was working at uni, which was a social network, we had to decide on the onboarding process, how much information are we going to take from the users? Is it just their name? Is it their gender? Is it what cuisine they like? What movies do they like? And we wanted to do exactly that, to match people up, and so they could befriend one another and maybe date and all of those sorts of things. And data is so important for so many facets of a business. So if you're a marketeer or you're an advertiser, you can target someone based on that person. And when you're looking at data of personas, or you're segmenting all of your customers into different segments, you can go by market, which is country and what language they speak. Then you can go by demographic. Are they single? What age are they? How much money do they have? Or those sorts of status external things. And then you've got psychographics, and there are lots of different really interesting psychographic frameworks. Ocean is one of them, and it will look at your conscientiousness, your openness, your neuroticism. I've actually bought a book. I'm quite fascinated with this concept, and that's really the heart and soul of, for marketeers. They want to touch people on more of an emotional side to make these emotional based
And so,
buying
what kind of
decisions.
emotion does it do? What you use it, right? What does
Well,
it do for you?
so
How does it make you feel it?
so I think if you're a marketeer in the B2B sense, and you are going for procurement teams who are very rational and they're just looking at price and features and how easy is it to onboard my team, that's one decision. But if you're looking at customers, and consumers who are more, they're making impulse purchases, that those will all be emotionally driven or status driven. And so, for example, fashion, music, and sports, the reason why we consume them as much as we enjoy them and we're getting entertained, it's also a form of social signaling, so that we are part of a community of like-minded people. If you're into golf, you want to meet other golfers. If you're into yachting or hip hop, you're saying I am part of that community and I belong there. So you can meet other people. So it's all to do with our drives are all social, I think, at the end of the day.
So you think all the drives are social? So everything we do is based on
Yeah,
social.
even status. It's how we are seen to to other people. How I think that we're social creatures at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. If you look at my Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the very highest level, you know, self-actualization level, it's a little bit different. You are who you are. It's very interesting. I know a lot of ultra high net worth families and friends of mine, and they get to a certain point, they can buy anything they want. And what do they drive? A pickup truck, right? And they're happy driving it, and they get to a point they don't really care. It's very interesting. But you're right. For most of the people, there's certain things that you want, and need. There's certain things you like, certain things that, and the other part is, what makes you happy. Happiness is the most important thing, isn't it? When it's all said and done, how do you feel? Are you happy about something? And
Mm,
and can you internalize it so that you can take that joy and that spirit and bring it out for other people?
yeah, I
Laughter is
mean,
the
I haven't conquered that one. I go through a roller coaster of emotions, especially being an entrepreneur. But the reason why I'm also an entrepreneur and I've tried to be at the forefront of technology is I can see how these technologies are going to disrupt every single industry. And my motto has always been the eye of the storm is the calmest place. Everywhere else, you're just, a year behind, and, you're trying to cling on to the old ways, and things are going to change and you're resisting it. So I just prefer to be leading the charge as much as possible, or working with other innovators and coming up with new ideas and using these new technologies in a very positive way. Yes, there are people who will use the technology to just make lots of money and rip people off, and lots of snake oils people. So it's important to just be discerning. And that actually goes back to happiness. It's who you surround yourself with. If you've got people who have similar values and mission in life, if you're surrounded by sharky people who are going to stab your back at any moment in time, that's not a recipe for
Some people like it. You know what I mean? They like to be around those sharky people. It's like the Wolf of
yeah.
Wall Street. But you go out. The life is when it's all said and done. And I spoke twice at the UN about this. Technology is a tool for peace, and also Burning Man. And we got to go out. We got to take some love and joy and happiness and spread around the world. And one of the ways that we can do that is create incredible jobs and opportunities for everybody. There's 1.4 billion people in Africa in 54 countries. We got to reach out across the aisle, and see how we can work together. We got a lot of challenges on this planet, from everything with the AMOC, the Atlantic current shutting down as early as 2025, to global warming, right?
Mhm.
We got to solve these problems. The way we do it is together. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. Closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Francesca?
Closing thoughts are, start your entrepreneurial journey, um, and learn about AI and new technologies, and follow your passion, I suppose. And I have Jenny Icon. So we are looking at how generative AI is disrupting different industries. So there's a very educational. We've got lots of different communities that you can be a part of. And if you're looking to invest in a female founder, then reach out to me.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. And thanks to all my audience for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again in a couple of days with another exciting edition. Thank you very much. Take care,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.